The breaking point. Commander Elena Reyes gazed out the viewport of the gas Concordia, watching as the brilliant blue-green world of Terran Colony Epsilon slowly rotated beneath them. Her reflection stared back, dark eyes determined, jaw set with the quiet resolve that had earned her command of humanity's flagship in the Galactic Alliance Security Force. 20 years of service, and humans were still fighting for scraps at the Alliance table. Commander, incoming transmission from High Admiral Vex Thor, Lieutenant Chang announced from his console. Elena smoothed down her uniform. Dealing with the Varrock's leadership always required perfect composure. On screen, the massive, insectoid face of High Admiral Vex Thor filled the display, mandibles clicking with barely contained irritation. Commander Rise, your colony's mineral shipments are 3.2% below quota this quarter. High Admiral, that's well within the seasonal variance we reported in our forecast. The equatorial flooding. Excuses are not acceptable. The Varrock's Presidium has unanimously voted to implement new oversight protocols for all human mining operations. The aliens' compound eyes glinted. Effective immediately, Varrock supervisors will manage all extraction facilities. Elena kept her expression neutral despite the rage boiling inside her. With respect, the Treaty of Sol explicitly grants humans autonomous control over. The treaty has been amended. The amendments have been transmitted to your governing council. Vex Thor's mandibles shifted in what Elena recognized as the Varrock's equivalent of smugness. Your species may have spread quickly across the stars, Commander, but remember, you're still newcomers, still learning how civilization functions on a galactic scale. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Elena staring at the blank screen. This was the third treaty amendment this year, each one stripping away more human rights and autonomy. Orders, Commander, Chang asked quietly. Set course for New Terra. We need to speak with the Council directly. 4 days later, Elena stood before the Human Coalition Council in their underground chamber beneath New Terra's capital. The 7 elected representatives of humanity's 87 colony worlds listened grimly as she detailed the Varrock's latest power grab. This goes beyond mineral rights, Elena concluded. Their supervisors will have access to our propulsion research facilities. They'll learn about Project Helios. Councillor Jackson, representing the inner colonies, cursed under his breath. They can't know about Helios. It's the only technological advantage we've managed to develop independently. They suspect something, Elena said. Last month, they restricted hydrogen-3 shipments to our research stations. They're systematically isolating our technological development while increasing their control over our resources. Councillor Wei, the eldest member of the council, rose slowly from her seat. For 50 years, we've played by their rules. We've integrated ourselves into their society, becoming the engineers, the mechanics, the maintenance crews that keep their grand alliance functioning. And how have they repaid us? With restrictions, amendments, and thinly veiled threats. The chamber fell silent as Y activated the central holographic display. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, with thousands of tiny blue dots scattered throughout. Each blue marker represents a station, ship, or facility where humans form more than 60% of the maintenance and technical staff. Wei explained, "We've become the backbone of their infrastructure while they treat us as second-class citizens." Elena studied the display, a realization dawning. "You've been planning for this." We nodded solemnly. "For 15 years. It's called Protocol Sunset, a simultaneous withdrawal of all human personnel from critical systems across the Alliance. We never wanted to implement it, but we've always known it might come to this." The chamber doors burst open, and Admiral Chen, head of Coalition Intelligence, rushed in. His face was ashen. "Epsilon Colony. It's gone." The room erupted into chaos as screens displayed the devastation. Where the blue-green jewel of Epsilon Colony had been was now a debris field, the planet's crust shattered. "Official reports claim a containment failure in the core stabilizers," Chen continued. "But we've intercepted Varrock's communications. This was deliberate. a test of a new planet cracker weapon. They're calling it a regrettable accident. Elena felt cold rage settle in her stomach. 8 million colonists, just to test a weapon. Counselor Jackson slammed his fist on the table. They've crossed the line. We need to strike back, show them. No, Wei interrupted. Direct military action against the Varox would be suicide. But we have something more powerful. She gestured to the galaxy map with its constellation of blue dots. We have absence. The council chamber grew quiet as Wei explained what Protocol Sunset would truly mean. Not a single act of violence would be committed, not one weapon fired. Humans would simply stop. Stop maintaining the reactors, the life support systems, the hyperspace networks, the navigation beacons. Stop being the invisible force that kept the Alliance functioning. Commander Reyes, Wei said finally, you've seen firsthand how the Varox leadership treats humanity. What say you? Elena looked around the room, at the faces of humanity's leaders, then back at the image of Epsilon's destruction. 8 million lives extinguished for a weapons test, dismissed as a regrettable accident. Implement Protocol Sunset, she said, her voice steady and resolved. Let the Alliance discover what happens when humans walk away. Within hours, the coded message spread through secret channels to every human in Alliance space. Pro Toxico Sunset. Activated. Timeline. 72 HOYs. On the luxury resort world of Paradisus, maintenance technician Marcus Wong received the message during his shift deep in the Environmental Control Center. For 6 years, he had maintained the atmospheric processors that kept the methane-breathing luxury tourists comfortable in their exclusive zones while allowing oxygen brothers to enjoy the planet's famed azure beaches. The luxury management had never bothered to learn how the system worked. That was human work. In the Cygnus Hyperspace Relay Station, engineer Sophia Dias watched the message appear on her personal device. For a decade, she had calibrated the quantum relays that made faster-than-light communication possible across 27 sectors. Her Varox supervisor couldn't tell a quantum entanglement stabilizer from a food replicator. Aboard the Varox battlecruiser Invincible, Lieutenant James Morgan received the message while repairing the vessel's power distribution network. The irony wasn't lost on him that the Varox, for all their military might, relied on human engineers to keep their warships operational. On thousands of stations, ships, and colonies across Alliance space, humans received the same message. For most, it brought a mixture of apprehension and grim satisfaction. The moment they had trained for, hope would never come, had arrived. As Elena boarded her ship to begin coordinating the massive withdrawal of human personnel, she thought about her grandparents who had been among the first humans to join the Alliance. They had believed in the promise of a united galaxy, of species working together towards something greater than themselves. The galaxy doesn't yet understand what humans truly contribute, she murmured to herself as the Concordia broke orbit, but they're about to learn. Across Alliance space, the countdown began. In 72 hours, the galaxy would change forever. The power of absence. Day 1 of Protocol Sunset began not with a bang, but with a whisper. On Paradisus, Marcus Wong completed his shift, carefully documenting the atmospheric system's status before logging out for the final time. He left behind detailed instructions, written in a human language no luxury could read, on the proper maintenance procedures, then boarded the last transport to the human sector. By midnight, every human maintenance worker had vanished from the resort planet. At the Cygnus Hyperspace Relay, Sophia Dias implemented a cascading shutdown sequence designed to gradually degrade communication efficiency rather than cause an immediate failure. She'd worked too hard building these systems to see them destroyed, even now. As she stepped onto the evacuation ship, she caught the puzzled expression of her Varox supervisor. "Scheduled leave," she said with a polite smile. "I'll be back in 2 weeks." It was the first direct lie she'd ever told him. The supervisor, oblivious to Protocol Sunset, simply nodded and returned to his terminal. Similar scenes played out across Alliance space. humans departing in ones and twos, citing vacations, family emergencies, or routine transfers. The exodus was deliberately designed to appear unremarkable until critical mass was achieved. On the second day, the first systems began to fail. The luxury environmental domes on Paradisus experienced inexplicable fluctuations in atmospheric composition, forcing 3,000 luxury guests to remain sealed in their emergency suits. Resort management assured everyone the minor technical issue would be resolved promptly. Throughout the Cygnus sector, hyperspace communications experienced increasing lag, messages taking minutes instead of milliseconds to traverse the network. Routine maintenance was blamed, with assurances that service would normalize shortly. By the third day, the pattern became impossible to ignore. The Central Alliance Hub, a massive station housing the governing bodies of 17 species, experienced cascading power failures in its eastern quadrant. The Galactic Alliance Security Council meeting was interrupted when life support systems in their chamber reduced oxygen levels to 15%. Uncomfortable but not lethal for most species present. High Admiral Vexthor was among the first to recognize the true nature of the crisis. As reports flooded in from across Alliance space, critical systems failing, maintenance crews unavailable, automated backups mysteriously offline, a disturbing common denominator emerged. "Where are the humans?" he demanded, mandibles clicking with agitation as he surveyed the emergency command center. No one answered immediately. Finally, a junior analyst spoke up. "High Admiral, preliminary reports indicate an 87% reduction in human personnel across all Alliance facilities in the past 72 hours. Impossible. That would require coordination on a scale that..." The realization hit him. This is deliberate. On the bridge of the Concordia, now hidden within the hydrogen clouds of the Taurus Nebula alongside 200 other human vessels, Commander Elena Reyes watched the unfolding chaos via secure feeds. The human exodus had been executed with precision, with 99.4% of personnel reaching extraction points on schedule. The Varrock central government has declared a state of emergency, Lieutenant Chang reported. They're dispatching technical teams to critical infrastructure, but he couldn't hide his satisfaction. They don't know how anything works. "Any casualties?" Elena asked sharply. None reported. The shutdown protocols worked as designed. Systems are failing safely, not catastrophically. Elena nodded with approval. Protocol Sunset had been engineered to make a point, not to harm innocent beings. Every critical life support system had been left with basic functionality and emergency backups. No one would die. They would just become increasingly uncomfortable as systems degraded from optimal to minimal performance. "Incoming transmission," Chung announced. "It's on the Emergency Coalition frequency. Put it through." The holographic image of Counselor Wei appeared before Elena. "Phase 1 is complete, Commander. The Council has authorized Phase 2. Elena took a deep breath. "Understood. Commencing Phase 2. Throughout human space, hidden transmitters activated simultaneously, broadcasting on all Alliance frequencies. On every screen across thousands of worlds appeared the same message. Attention Galactic Alliance leadership. For generations, humans have served as the engineers, technicians, and maintenance personnel that keep Alliance infrastructure functioning. We have remained in the background, our contributions minimized, our rights gradually eroded. Today, that changes. Protocol Sunset has demonstrated the true role of humanity in this alliance. We now invite dialogue on the following terms." The message continued, listing the human demands. Full restoration of autonomous control over human colonies, representation proportional to contribution in Alliance governance, and a thorough investigation into the destruction of Epsilon Colony. The response came more quickly than anticipated. Just 6 hours after the broadcast, the Varrock's Presidium requested a direct negotiation channel. Elena found herself face-to-face with High Admiral Vexthor once again. "This act of sabotage will not be tolerated," Vexthor began, mandibles quivering with barely contained rage. The Verox Presidium demands the immediate return of all human personnel to their posts. Elena met his compound gaze steadily. This isn't sabotage, High Admiral. No systems were damaged. No one has been harmed. We have simply stepped aside. You've crippled Alliance infrastructure. We've demonstrated our value, Elena corrected. Something the Alliance, particularly the Verox leadership, has failed to recognize. For 50 years, humans have been the backbone of technical operations across Alliance space, yet we're treated as second-class citizens. You expect concessions for this blackmail. We expect recognition and justice for Epsilon Colony. Vexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation Elena had learned to recognize. The incident at Epsilon was a regrettable accident during routine. We have the communications logs, High Admiral. We know it was a weapons test. 8 million human lives to test a planet cracker. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Vexthor spoke, his tone markedly different. What are your terms for ending this demonstration? 24 hours later, Elena stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Alliance Assembly as the Accords of New Terra were signed. Representatives from all 17 Alliance species witnessed as the Verox Presidium formally recognize humanity's right to proportional representation in Alliance governance, autonomous control of human worlds, and establishment of a Truth Commission to investigate Epsilon's destruction. As the ceremony concluded, the Luxury ambassador approached Elena. A most impressive strategy, Commander. Not a single act of violence, yet more effective than any fleet action could have been. Elena nodded. Humans have a saying. Sometimes the most powerful statement is absence. A philosophy my people will not soon forget, the ambassador replied. Nor will any species in the Alliance. In the weeks that followed, humans gradually returned to their posts throughout Alliance space. Systems were restored, communications reestablished, environmental controls optimized. But the relationship had fundamentally changed. Where once humans had been invisible, taken for granted, they were now seen, their contributions acknowledged, their presence valued. 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed memorial that orbited the remnants of Epsilon Colony. The Verox responsible for the planet's destruction had been brought to justice, and reconstruction efforts were underway on Epsilon's largest remaining fragment. Lieutenant Chung joined her at the viewport. The memorial service begins in 10 minutes, Commander. Elena nodded, gazing at the slow dance of debris that had once been home to millions. Did we do the right thing, Chung? Protocol Sunset could have spiraled into open conflict. It could have, he agreed, but it didn't. You showed restraint even in the face of provocation. That's why it worked. He paused. My grandparents were on Epsilon, you know. When I received the Protocol Sunset order, part of me wanted revenge, not negotiation. And now I understand what you accomplished. Violence would have confirmed every stereotype about humans being dangerous, unpredictable. Instead, you showed that our true strength lies in what we build and maintain, not what we can destroy. Elena turned from the viewport as delegates from across the Alliance began filing into the memorial chamber. Among them walked humans, no longer in the background but standing as equals. The galaxy has changed, she said quietly, and so have we. As the memorial service began, representatives from each Alliance species rose to speak of cooperation, of learning from tragedy, of building a more equitable future. The Verox speaker acknowledged his species' role in the disaster and pledged that such atrocities would never again be committed. When it was Elena's turn to speak, she approached the podium and gazed out at the assembled delegates. Today we remember those lost on Epsilon Colony, but we also mark the beginning of a new era in the Galactic Alliance, one where all species stand as true equals, where contribution is recognized, where cooperation replaces coercion. She looked toward the shattered remains of Epsilon visible through the viewport. Humanity pushed too far will push back, not with weapons, but with absence. Not with destruction, but with the withdrawal of creation. That is the lesson of Protocol Sunset, and it is a lesson the stars themselves will remember.